CreepyCorner stories.
Before we get into tonight's story, I've got a question for you. If someone sent you a dark web link that promised to show you the truth about your own future, would you click it, or would you stay far, far away? Drop your answer in the comments. I'm really curious how many of you would actually take that risk. And if you enjoy these kinds of stories, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next one. Now, let's dive in. I found a dark web red room streaming from inside Area 51. The victim wasn't human. Yo, I've never posted on Reddit before, and I've definitely never told this story online. But I've been sitting with this for months, and it's been eating away at me like crazy. I swear, this isn't a joke or a creepypasta for fun kind of thing. I'm telling you all this because I genuinely don't know what to do with what I saw. Yo, I saw this nearby. If anything happens to me, at least someone will know where to start looking. So yeah, I'm throwing this on here under a burner account. This all started back in May of this year. I was home from college, staying with my parents in Vegas, and bored out of my mind. It was one of those long weeks where you just spiral into the weird parts of YouTube, then Reddit, then, well, darker places. I've always been into weird internet rabbit holes. ARGs, creepy YouTube channels, those weird lost episode compilations, you know the kind. I used to watch this channel called Here's My Story while eating fast food in the middle of the night. Don't judge me. But this story I'm about to tell makes all of those look like Teletubbies. It started after I saw a clip on TikTok. This dude was talking about something called Project Gateway, supposedly an old CIA experiment that involved consciousness, astral projection, and accessing alternate realities. Sounds crazy, right? But here's the kicker. He said it was tied to Area 51. Now, I live like 2 hours from that place. I've driven past the warning signs before just for fun, but never crossed the barrier. Anyway, I went down this deep rabbit hole about Area 51, MK Ultra, Project Gateway, and eventually, the dark web. One night around 2 a.m., I was chilling in my room, half a bag of Doritos deep, and I decided to boot up my old laptop, the one I used for coding in high school. I wiped it, installed Tails OS, set up Tor, and ran it through a VPN. Let me be super clear. Don't do this unless you know what you're doing. The dark web isn't cool or mysterious. It's grimy, depressing, and honestly feels like walking into a haunted basement that smells like bleach and rotting meat. I started browsing some of the usual forums. Most of it was scams or dead links, but one thread caught my eye. It was titled, Red_Room_51, live stream, members only, next session in 37 minutes. I clicked, thinking it was just another troll site. But it loaded a landing page with this black background and grainy white text that looked like it hadn't been updated since Windows 98. No sound, no images, just text. Next live stream will begin at 0200 PST. Session duration, 7 minutes. Target, biological subject. Viewer limit, 8. Do not record, do not interfere. There was a countdown timer, ticking down, and under that, a login box. Now, I didn't have any credentials. But here's where things got really weird. I refreshed the page once, and suddenly, the login box was gone. The stream link was just there, open. No paywall, no login, no capture, like it wanted me to see it. At exactly 2 a.m., the screen flickered. I remember it started with this old CRT-style static and a quiet humming noise, like an engine idling far underground. Then it cut to a dimly lit room, sterile as hell. Think like a surgical theater, crossed with a warehouse. The whole place was lit with this gross green hue, like the color of cheap night vision goggles. But there was one camera angle, pointed down from a ceiling corner. No music, no talking, just the constant hum of something mechanical. The camera zoomed slightly, automatically adjusting, and focused on a stainless steel table in the center of the room. That's when I noticed the red stains. They weren't fresh, but they were definitely blood. The kind that gets caked onto metal and turns brown over time. You could see handprints, some really small ones, almost child-sized, dragged across the edge of the table. Then someone walked in. They were wearing a white hazmat suit, completely sealed up. The mask had no face, just a black visor, like some kind of prototype astronaut. They wheeled in this cart. I couldn't see what was on it, not at first. I was expecting some kind of Saw-level gore, or maybe just another fake-out. But when the figure lifted the sheet on the cart, I felt my entire body go cold. It wasn't human. Whatever was lying there looked mostly human, like 90% human, but not all the way. It had skin that looked waxy, almost plastic. No hair, no eyebrows, and its limbs were just slightly too long, like someone had clicked stretch in Photoshop. Its chest was rising and falling, like it was breathing, alive. Then the chat opened up on the side of the stream. Yeah, an actual live chat, with 7 other people in it. Most of the usernames were strings of letters and numbers, except one, ADEN51, 17-minute session. Remain silent. I swear to God I took a screenshot. But the second I hit Shift plus Command plus 4, the stream froze, and a huge warning in red appeared across the screen. Attempted recording detected. You have been logged. Session continues. My heart dropped. I unplugged my webcam, threw my hoodie over the laptop, and just sat there, watching. Frozen, the figure in the suit started cutting into the thing on the table. No anesthesia, no reaction. But right when they sliced into the chest, the thing opened its eyes. Black, no iris, no white, just this endless glossy void. It looked straight at the camera, like it knew we were watching, like it knew I was watching. I wanted to close the tab. I should have closed the tab, but something about the way it looked at me, I swear it felt like a warning or a threat. The rest of the session was just quiet dissecting, no talking, no screaming. But as they pulled parts from it, there was no blood, just this thick, black fluid, like ink or crude oil. When the timer hit 17 minutes, the stream went dark, and then the page just disappeared. I tried to refresh, but got hit with a 404 error. My whole laptop screen glitched for a second. The fan revved like crazy, and then, suddenly, my mouse cursor moved, on its own, to the bottom right corner and closed the browser. Not kidding. I didn't sleep that night. I unplugged everything, turned off the Wi-Fi, tossed the laptop into the closet, and stared at the ceiling for hours. That would have been the end of it, until I went to Starbucks the next morning. My phone buzzed while I was ordering. I looked down and saw a new airdrop request from an unknown device. The file name, You Saw Too Much. The Starbucks was packed. Just your usual Wednesday morning crowd. College kids on laptops, a couple tourists taking selfies with their frappuccinos, and this one old guy by the window muttering to himself in a US Air Force hat. I remember the smell of burnt espresso mixed with bleach, like they had just cleaned the floors but missed something rotting underneath it all. My hand shook as I held the iced coffee. I hadn't slept at all. I kept seeing those black eyes every time I blinked. And then, the airdrop. That one message shattered whatever thin reality I had left. You saw too much. I didn't accept the file. I didn't decline it either. I just stood there, frozen, staring at the pop-up on my phone like it was going to explode. The device name that sent it was just an emoji. CLOS. No letters, no numbers, just that little cartoon flying saucer. I looked around. Everyone in the cafe looked normal. Too normal. But that's what scared me more than anything. I turned my phone off, left the coffee on the counter, and walked out without even looking back. When I got home, the first thing I noticed was that my front door was unlocked. Now, I know I locked it. I'm paranoid. I triple-check that kind of stuff. But it wasn't just unlocked. It was ajar, like someone had pushed it open and didn't bother to close it. I stepped inside. The air was cold, like way colder than it should have been for Vegas in May. And it smelled like copper, metallic and sharp. Not blood exactly, but something close. something artificial. My parents were out of town that week, so I was alone. Or at least I thought I was. I went straight to my room. The laptop was still in the closet, right where I left it. I hadn't touched it since last night. I took a deep breath, plugged it back in, and powered it on. The startup chime played. Everything looked normal for about 6 seconds. Then, the screen went black. No icons, no desktop, just black. Then white text appeared, slowly, like someone was typing it live. Do not look away. Watch the truth. A video began playing. Not a file I downloaded, not anything saved on the laptop. It streamed, pixelated at first, like it was coming from somewhere deep, like below the surface internet entirely. This one didn't take place in a sterile room. It was outside, in the Nevada desert. The camera was shaky, handheld, maybe a drone. The footage looked grainy, like it was recorded on old military equipment. It zoomed in slowly on a giant hangar door, half open, built into the side of a mountain. You couldn't see the full structure, just shadows and fences. There were no guards, no cars, just a flat desert road leading into the black. The camera crept closer. Inside the hangar, there was a large open space with floodlights overhead. I could barely make it out, but in the center of the hangar was this glass tank the size of a school bus. The glass was thick, military grade. There were hoses and wires running to it, feeding into something floating inside. And then the footage cut to a close-up. I still don't know how to describe it properly. It wasn't human, not completely. It looked like a body formed from parts that didn't belong together, like something built, not born. Its skin was too smooth, almost rubbery, and a web of black veins ran beneath the surface. Its mouth was sealed shut with surgical staples, and where the nose should have been was just a series of slits. It had a barcode burned into its chest. EXT-777-HUUN0ID. And then the screen glitched violently, like the video was struggling to keep playing. Suddenly, loud screaming pierced through my speakers. Not a person screaming, something deeper. Something that mimicked human screams but wasn't quite right, like it had learned the sound by watching us. And the next part, the creature's eyes opened, wide and bulging. The same jet black voids I saw in the Red Room stream. But this time, it wasn't restrained, it was awake. You could see it banging on the glass, faster and faster, its limbs stretching unnaturally, almost rubber-like, until it cracked the tank wall. The camera zoomed in on the crack forming. You could actually see the tank bend. Then the screen went to static, and the same text appeared again. There is more than you know. They are building them. My hands were shaking. I slammed the laptop shut and yanked the power cable out. I swear I was going to puke. I actually ran to the bathroom and sat on the floor for a good 10 minutes, staring at the tile, trying to convince myself this wasn't happening, and that's when I saw it. Something was scratched into the mirror with what looked like a car key or a blade. I hadn't seen it that morning. I would have noticed. 3 letters. RTK. I had no idea what it meant, but I swear I heard something move in the vent above the sink the second I touched it. Like a whisper. Like breathing. I spent the next few hours scouring Reddit, trying to find anything on RTK, or red_room_51. Nothing. All the links were dead ends. But then I checked Twitter. Not my feed, but trending topics. Nothing major, except something small, buried under a pile of meaningless trends. Number, what happened at Dreamland. People were talking about some incident near Area 51. Dreamland is the nickname for it, if you didn't know. Apparently, a tour bus full of foreign tourists had gone missing off Highway 375, the extraterrestrial highway, and the whole area was cordoned off. But no news outlets were covering it. Only locals were posting. A couple blurry photos of helicopters, roadblocks, and one terrifying image that got deleted 5 minutes after I saw it. It was of a man standing in the desert, naked, his skin gray and tight like it had been vacuum sealed. His arms were too long, and he was just standing there, staring directly into the camera. His eyes, pitch black. I went outside to get some air. It was almost midnight. The neighborhood was silent, except for the faint buzzing of a streetlight. That's when I saw it, parked across the street. An unmarked black SUV, windows tinted so dark, it looked like a monolith. It hadn't been there earlier. The engine was off, no lights on, just sitting there, watching. I went back inside, locked the doors, turned off the lights, and then my phone turned back on, by itself, just lit up on the nightstand. The screen displayed a new message in the Notes app, one I didn't write. If you tell anyone, we'll feed you to it next. My phone screen shattered right then and there, like someone had punched it from the inside. I haven't left my house since. That was 3 days ago. And now the laptop turns on by itself every night at 2:00 a.m., no matter where I hide it. No matter if it's unplugged or even if I remove the damn battery, it powers on. Every night, same stream, new procedure. Last night I watched them dissect what looked like a military officer, still breathing, still in uniform, screaming, until they injected that same black fluid into his eyes and his screaming stopped mid-sound, like someone hit mute on reality. His body reanimated, twitched, jerked, then looked at the camera, smiled. I don't know how much time I have left. There's more I haven't told you yet. The real reason that thing recognized me, and what I found on my baby photos when I looked closely enough. But I'll save that for part 3, if I make it there. If you see the stream, don't watch it, and for the love of God, do not look into its eyes. Have you ever stood somewhere that shouldn't feel safe, your home, your childhood bedroom, and suddenly felt like something wrong was pulsing beneath the walls? Like there's something ancient and watching, just barely out of frame? That's what it felt like the second I opened the attic. It was 3:12 a.m. I haven't slept. Again, the laptop had powered on at 2:00, like clockwork, but this time there wasn't a stream. Just a static screen, and the new line of text blinking over and over. You were never supposed to leave. That's when I heard it, scratching. Not from the walls, not from under the floor, above me. The attic. I hadn't been up there in years, not since I was like 10. My parents kept holiday junk and old furniture up there. That was it. But the noise wasn't furniture. It wasn't rats either. It was fast, like tiny bones clicking against wood. And then I heard it whisper, not words, just a whisper right against the back of my skull. Like a cold breath in a dream you don't remember waking up from. I grabbed a flashlight, pulled the ladder down, and climbed up, instantly hit by heat and dust. The air was thick, heavy, but something else was wrong. The insulation had been ripped open, like something had crawled through it from the inside. It wasn't. Yellow fibers scattered everywhere, but that's not what stopped me cold. It was the box, a single cardboard box sitting dead center in the attic. No dust on it, no cobwebs, like it had been placed there recently. It was labeled in sharp, thick black marker, RTK, for your eyes only. My heart was pounding. I didn't want to open it. Every part of my body told me not to open it, but I did. Inside, just one thing, a VHS tape, no label, no stickers, just the smell of melted plastic and something acidic, the kind of smell that clings to your throat and won't leave. I stared at it for a long time. It shouldn't have been there. We didn't even own a VCR anymore. And that's when the closet light in my room turned on by itself downstairs. I ran down, tape in hand. The laptop screen had changed. Play the tape. I know what you're thinking. It's a VHS. How would I even play it? That's the thing. I didn't need to. Because when I opened my phone's camera, the feed was already there, streaming the tape. I wasn't recording it. My camera app wasn't even open, but the screen showed the static of a VHS player, and the tape was playing on its own. No UI, no options, just playing. The footage started in what looked like a Cold War-era bunker. The walls were green metal, rusted and shaking from something big above them. A man in a black military uniform was speaking to someone off screen. No audio. But his face was full of fear, not discipline. Behind him was a wall lined with cages, dozens of them, some empty, some Some weren't empty. I couldn't make sense of what was inside them. They looked like people. Or, again, 90% people. Every one of them had something wrong. One was missing its mouth. Another had no eyes, just skin stretched tight where the sockets should have been. One was completely limp, but its shadow moved on the wall behind it, like it was dancing. And then, the camera turned toward a mirror on the wall. You know those two-way ones, observation glass. You could see a figure on the other side, watching. Still completely still, in total darkness. No face, just a silhouette in a clean room, staring. And that's when the tape cut. Not ended, cut. The phone screen filled with red text, glitching violently. Subject RTK-001 escaped. Objective, observe the host. You are the host. That's when everything broke. I dropped the phone and threw up. Black, thick, like the fluid I'd seen injected into the officer from the last stream. It burned like battery acid. I swear my veins lit up for a second. I saw lines running under my skin, veins that weren't mine, veins that didn't belong. And then I passed out. When I woke up, it was daylight, and there was someone sitting at the foot of my bed. A man in a black suit, clean shaven, pale, like corpse pale. He didn't move, he didn't speak. He just watched me for what felt like minutes, and then, without blinking, he stood up, turned, and walked out of my room. I chased him, but when I got into the hallway, no one was there. Not a single sound. Every door was closed, windows locked. But on the mirror in the hall, written in fog, were the words, "Stop digging, or you'll remember everything." That night, I started digging anyway. Every drawer, every old photo box, my parents' files, every dusty binder and folder I could find. And then, I found it. A manila envelope in the back of my dad's closet, tucked behind some old Air Force memorabilia. Inside were a bunch of medical records. Not his, mine. Except none of them made sense. There were lab results, blood work, MRIs from infancy, notes scribbled by hand, circled in red ink. Abnormal regeneration, retinal disassociation, non-human structure. Subject responds negatively to certain frequencies. See Appendix C, 51.777 HZ. But the worst part, the grainy photo stapled to the back. It was me, as a toddler, sitting on a cold metal table, surrounded by men in hazmat suits, crying, and my eyes were pitch black. There's something inside me, something that doesn't belong. That's why the thing on the table looked at me. That's why the tape showed my house. That's why the stream opens without credentials. I'm not a viewer. I'm part of it. Last night, the laptop didn't stream a red room. It streamed my backyard, live, at 2:00 a.m. It showed my fence, the tree swing, the garden I haven't touched since elementary school. And then, something moved. Something crawled out of the dirt, slowly, jerkily, like it wasn't used to gravity. It looked just like me, but its mouth opened all the way down to its chest. And when it smiled, it whispered, "Welcome home." Because part 4 is where I dig up what they buried under my childhood swing, and what was waiting for me inside it. I'm scared to even write it, but I think it's still alive. You ever dig your own grave? Not metaphorically, like a literal hole in the earth for something that looks like you, breathes like you, smiles like you, but isn't you. Because that's what I did at 3:06 a.m. I walked barefoot into my backyard. The grass was wet with dew, but something about it felt wrong. The ground pulsed beneath my feet, like there was a second heartbeat underneath the dirt. I kept thinking about what I saw on the laptop stream. That thing crawling out from under the swing set, its jaw unhinged. That voice saying, "Welcome home." I grabbed the rusty garden shovel leaning behind the shed. Same one I used as a kid when I helped my dad dig up an old sprinkler pipe. Except now, I wasn't uncovering plumbing. I was digging into my own origin story. The earth came up too easily, like someone had just buried something there. The dirt was soft, moist, and warm. As I dug, the smell hit me. Chemical rot, like burned hair mixed with formaldehyde, and something that used to be live. I was 5 feet down when the shovel hit metal. Clang. Hollow. I dropped to my knees and scraped the dirt away with my bare hands until I uncovered a steel hatch, maybe 3 feet wide. No lock, just a handle. My fingers trembled around the cold grip as I pulled it open. It didn't creak. It hissed, like it was releasing pressure, or letting something out. A steel ladder disappeared into darkness below, with that same hum I heard in the Red Room streams. That low, electric pulse that made my teeth itch and my spine seize up like something ancient was vibrating through me. I climbed down. Every rung was damp with condensation. And something else. Something that smelled like ink and blood. At the bottom was a tunnel. Narrow, lit by a single red bulb that flickered like a dying heart. The air felt old. Not stale, old. Like it had been sealed down here for decades, waiting for someone stupid enough to open it again. The tunnel led to a room, square, silent, cold. And in the center, a body bag, zip-tied to a gurney with military stencils along the frame. The words, "Property of Sand Dunes Facility," spray-painted in white block letters across the floor beneath it. I stood there for a long time, staring, and then it moved. Not big movements, just a twitch. The kind of twitch a dead muscle makes after you've pulled the plug. Except this muscle didn't stop. It twitched again, and again, until the whole bag started convulsing. Something inside was waking up. I didn't unzip it. I should have run. Any sane person would have run, but I couldn't, because it was whispering my name, not out loud, inside my skull, like a memory I never had. You were the prototype before they made me perfect. I unzipped the top of the bag and felt the fabric jerk under my fingers, like a pulse, like breathing. And then I saw its face. Mine. Exactly mine. Down to the scar on my eyebrow I got from falling off my bike when I was 7. Except its skin was stretched too tight, as if something larger was wearing it like a mask. Its eyes weren't black like the others. They were pure white, with thin black veins spiraling through them like cracks in porcelain. And its lips peeled back, and it smiled with too many teeth. I was the one they perfected in the lab under Dreamland. You're just the sketch, the draft, the disposable version. I stumbled back and hit the wall. The thing sat up in the gurney, like the zip ties were never real, and reached out toward me. Its hand split down the middle as it opened, revealing 3 fingers inside. Each one tipped with a microscopic drill point. They bred me in the room. They fed me screams. They showed me your world. Now I want him. That's when the tunnel lights snapped off. Darkness, pure, drowning black. I ran, scrambled up the ladder, nearly breaking my shin on the way out. I didn't even shut the hatch. I just ran back into the house and locked the back door, breath ragged, heart trying to claw out of my chest. When I turned around, he was already inside, standing in the corner of the living room, that same exact copy of me, except this time he was wearing my clothes, my face, my posture, but his shadow was still his own. It moved like it was breathing without him, pulsing like a tumor. He raised one hand, and suddenly every screen in the house turned on. Phone, laptop, TV, microwave display. Even my old iPad that hadn't had power in 4 years, all of them lit up with a live stream. Area 51. Inside the Red Room. But this time, there were hundreds of bodies, stacked like cordwood, and every single one was me. Clones, drafts, prototypes, each more broken than the last. Some missing legs, others twitching without heads. One of them dragging its own spine like a leash behind it. How many times do you think they made you? The other me stepped forward, the lights dimmed with his breath, every shadow stretched and warped. You were never born, you were deployed. And then, without another word, he walked into the hallway and vanished. Not like you turned a corner, not like he left. He just blinked out of existence, like he had never been real, like none of this had. Except it was, because when I woke up the next morning, the hatch was gone. Like the yard had never been disturbed. No shovel, no dirt, no evidence. But there was a single box sitting in the middle of my room. Same cardboard, same black marker. but this time it said, "Final deployment in 72 hours." And inside, a recording device, already on, and a file, not a digital one, a real manila folder with a printed cover, Operation Echo_Twin. Subject RTK-000_13 has achieved consciousness breach and visual exposure. Commence Phase 4 integration. I flipped the last page over, and there was a photo of me, sleeping, taken from inside my closet. Let me know when you're ready to hear how this ends, but I'll warn you right now, Part 5 isn't a story anymore. It's a countdown. 72 hours. That's what the file said. Final deployment in 72 hours. That was 3 days ago. So why am I still here? Why is the camera still recording? Why is my reflection still smiling without me? The night after I found the box, something broke. Not outside, not in the house. In me. Like something was crawling through the seams of my brain, finding all the little cracks and bleeding through. My vision's been splitting. I'll look at the microwave clock and see 3 different times. I'll check the mirror, and my face will lag a full second behind. And the worst part? I don't think I blink anymore. That first night, the file folder kept rearranging itself, not metaphorically, physically. Pages reshuffling, photographs I didn't recognize sliding themselves in between documents I already read. Some of the new pages were typed in languages I don't even think are human. One of them had symbols that looked carved, not printed, like someone had dragged a blade across the paper. Another just had a list, a numbered list. Each one a name, and next to each name was a location. Each name was followed by Echo Twin Successful. Mine was the only one left unchecked. RTK-000_13, Las Vegas NV, status pending. There was a red line drawn under it in pen, handwritten in all caps, "Do not let him become aware." Too late. I started hearing them. The others. I'd turn the sink on, and through the water I'd hear screaming. Not distant, not muffled, like they were inside the pipes, pressed against the steel, screaming through the plumbing. I went 3 days without sleeping. Every time I closed my eyes I saw them. The ones from the red room, the bodies, the drafts, the rejected twins that were almost me, but weren't right. I saw one crawling out of a garbage chute, its arms like chewed rope, its eyes sewn open with thread that looked like hair. I saw another stitched to a wall, mouth open like it was still screaming, ribs exposed and carved with numbers like barcodes. I saw myself walking into a Starbucks, sitting down at a table and watching the rest of me from behind the counter. But I wasn't dreaming, because when I finally passed out on the floor from exhaustion, I woke up with a napkin in my pockets, the Starbucks logo, and in Sharpie, You try again. You're not done. The next morning, the box in my room was gone, but something else was there. A door, not in the wall, in the floor, like a trapdoor, metal, with the same black stenciled lettering I saw in the underground bunker. Sand Dunes Facility, emergency egress only. Except, this was my bedroom. The carpet had been peeled back, the wood cut clean, as if someone had surgically installed the hatch while I was asleep. Or maybe I was never awake at all. I opened the door. This time, there were no lights. No home, just the stench. That same burnt plastic meat hair smell, but thicker now, alive, breathing. I climbed down again, back into the earth, knowing exactly what was waiting, but not knowing what would be left of me when I came back. The ladder led to a room, different from before. This one was lined with mirrors, all sides, floor to ceiling. Each mirror showed a different version of me, some alive, some twitching, some staring back with hatred so deep it felt like it had been grown in a lab. One was missing his jaw, gurgling black static from his throat like an audio file corrupted beyond repair. One was a child version of me, sobbing, with a barcode tattooed across his scalp. And one was just me. Normal. But he wasn't blinking either. I turned around. There was a single chair in the middle of the room, an old dental chair, brown leather, straps hanging from the arms. Above it, a camera, red light blinking, recording. I sat down. I don't know why. Maybe I knew it was the only way to finish this. Maybe part of me remembered it. The moment I sat down, the camera clicked. Something inside me woke up. I started convulsing. Every nerve in my body lit up like I was being electrocuted. But there was no pain, just clarity. Memories I never lived flooded in, needles in my spine. Men in masks speaking German and Russian, and something else I don't even think was a language. A white room, a woman I don't know screaming my name, but her face was melting like a photo in fire. And a voice, the same one from the streams, the same one from my dreams, the same one whispering inside the bathroom mirror. RTK-000_13 achieved full reintegration. Echo_twin protocol complete. And then I woke up, on my bed, back in my room. No trapdoor, no file, just my laptop. Open, streaming. A new Red Room session. Only this time, the camera wasn't in a lab. It was in my house, my living room. And sitting in the chair, we, strapped in, head twitching, veins black, mouth sewn shut. But my eyes, still awake, still blinking, still screaming. My phone rang. Unknown caller. I picked up, and the voice on the other end was my own. Congratulations, you're the only one who survived the procedure. They're all inside you now. Every echo, every draft, every failed twin. You're the final version. I tried to speak, but my mouth wouldn't open. I touched my lips. They were stitched shut. The doorbell rang. I got up, walked to the front door, but there was no one there. Only a black box, just like the others. On top was a note, short, final. We're ready for you now. Please return to Dreamland. We'll take it from here. I looked up, and across the street, in the window of the house I thought was empty, was me, smiling, wearing my clothes, waiting. His shadow still didn't match. It was waving with the wrong arm. That was the final deployment. That's when the countdown stopped. Because it wasn't counting down to something happening, it was counting down to me realizing I'd already been replaced. The one writing this isn't the original. And now that I've told you everything, you've seen too much too. So if you're reading this, check your reflection. If it doesn't blink when you do, it's already started. I move with my mother every month to a different city. My new neighbor found on the dark web why. Alright, so I don't usually post stuff like this, but I literally don't know who else to talk to. I'm not trying to scare anyone or whatever, I just need to put this somewhere. Somewhere people might actually listen. So yeah, I move a lot. Like, a lot. Every month, sometimes less than that. Me and my mom, new city, new apartment, new everything. Sometimes it's a nice Airbnb in some bougie neighborhood. Sometimes it's a gross little studio with cockroaches crawling out the microwave. No notice, no goodbye to neighbors, no explanation. Just boxes, bags, and Uber to the next place. I'm 16 now. Been doing this since I was around 9. My mom always acts like it's normal, like this is just how people live. I've gone to like 11 different schools in the past 2 years. No friends, no long-term anything. It's been like living out of a suitcase my whole life. Anyway, this story starts with our most recent move. Asheville, North Carolina, August 1st. We pulled up to this old 2-bedroom duplex that looked like it hadn't been painted since the early 2000s. Rusted mailbox, dying bushes out front. Classic, divorced dad on a budget type house. The inside was dusty, smelled like wood rot and linen cleaner. It had these weird antique paintings on the walls that were already there when we arrived. Just like old portraits, random people, creepy eyes that followed you. My mom said not to touch them. They're part of the lease, she told me. That was new. But here's where it gets weird. There was a guy, maybe 19 or 20, who lived next door. His name was Micah. First person I met in the new place. Skinny dude, buzz cut, wore hoodies even though it was like 95 degrees outside. I only saw him at night. Like only at night. Not in a vampire way or anything, just dude never came out until like 10 p.m. Then he'd be on his porch, smoking, scrolling through TikTok or Reddit. blasting horrorcore rap from his phone speakers. Weird vibes? Yeah, but I was used to weird people. When you move this much, you meet a lot of them. One night, like 2 weeks after we moved in, I sat outside with him, just chillin'. He offered me a Capri Sun, kinda funny, and we started talking. He was into a lot of deep web stuff. Not just like, haha, look at creepypastas, but legit stuff. He claimed he bought a defunct FBI laptop off the deep web once. Said he used to hang out in forums where people shared live access, links to abandoned security cams, and old government building feeds. He pulled up this thread on his phone from some dark web Reddit clone. The Sync or something like that. It looked like a Reddit page, just way older and grimier. Every post was just titles like, "The girl in 12C moved again." "Avoid the woman with the red hoodie, not if but when she knocks." "Help, I think I'm dating an extraction target." I'm not even gonna lie. I thought it was some ARG alternate reality game, like a messed up roleplay, until I saw a post titled, "She's in Asheville now, with the kid." Posted the same day we arrived, there was a photo attached. I kid you not, it was the back of our rental car. Same license plate. Same blue IKEA tarp hanging out the trunk we'd used to cover our boxes. Blurry, like it was taken from a gas station camera or something. Tagged number observer log 017 and number asset mobile confirmed. I laughed it off. Said, "Bro, that's just coincidence. There's no way someone's tracking us like that." But Micah didn't laugh. He just looked at me, dead serious. He said, "Do you even know why y'all move so much?" I started to answer, but then stopped. I didn't, not really. I mean, I've asked my mom, obviously. She always had the same answer. We're just trying to find the right place. Or, this isn't where we're meant to be yet. Total vague spiritual nomad crap. Micah leaned forward and said, "You ever try to stay?" I didn't answer. He said, "Don't." That same night I got curious. I'm not dumb, but I'm not a hacker either. I started looking up the stuff Micah mentioned. The Sync, observer log, those weird tags. Couldn't find anything on regular browsers. So I downloaded Tor. Yeah, I know it's illegal. I didn't plan on buying drugs or hitmen or whatever. I just wanted to see if it was real. And bro, what I saw changed everything. There was a full page, looked like some kind of internal log, called Asset LC17 Movement Tracker. It was behind 2 login pages, but somehow, through an old backdoor link Micah texted me, I got in. I swear on my life, there were timestamps, GPS pings, and surveillance images from almost every city we've lived in, even places I barely remember. One of the photos made my heart stop. It was me, standing in front of a Starbucks in Denver last year. I was wearing my gray NASA hoodie, holding a pink cake pop. The date said, May 6th, 2024. Same day I remember getting yelled at by my mom for wandering off. There was another photo, way older. Me, maybe 10 years old, sleeping in the backseat of a red Jeep. In the reflection of the window, there was a face. Some guy standing just far enough away that you couldn't see the details. Just a long coat, no expression. Micah texted me again at like 3 a.m. They know you logged in. Turn your phone off. Tell your mom. Now. I ran to her room. She wasn't there. The front door was wide open, and right on the porch, taped to the wood with a strip of packing tape, was a Polaroid. A photo of me and my mom, taken from inside the house. From behind us. The Polaroid was still warm. I remember that part the most. Like it had just come out of the camera seconds before I found it. I was standing on the porch in nothing but my socks, clutching that picture with both hands, my fingers shaking so hard, the edges were starting to bend. Or, you know what's messed up? It wasn't just a picture of us sitting in the living room. It was the angle. The shot was taken from behind the couch. I was sitting there, playing a stupid mobile game on my phone. My mom was in the recliner, reading one of those spiritual self-help books she always carried around. We looked normal. But that camera? It was inside the house, behind us. Somebody had been in there. standing no more than 10 feet away, watching us, and we didn't even notice. I slammed the door shut and locked it. Every window, every latch, every curtain closed. My breathing was so loud it echoed off the walls. I grabbed one of those heavy fireplace pokers and started walking through the house like I was clearing rooms in Call of Duty. But there was no one. Just the stale smell of carpet cleaner, and that one dumb painting in the hallway, the one of a woman in a black veil, holding a candle. I swear to God I never noticed it before, but her eyes looked wet, like freshly painted. Anyway, Micah wasn't answering his texts. My mom still hadn't come back. I didn't even know where she went. The last thing I remembered was her taking the trash out. That was over an hour ago. I didn't sleep that night, but around 4:30 a.m., something happened that made things go from creepy to traumatizing. The power cut out. Dead silent. No hum from the fridge, no buzz from the ceiling light. Just that deep, suffocating kind of silence that wraps around you like a thick blanket. I stood in the hallway, trying to get service on my phone. Nothing. Then I heard it. Click, click, click. It was slow. Like someone walking on tile with hard boots. The sound was coming from the kitchen, and whoever it was wasn't trying to be quiet. My first instinct was to grab the poker again, but it wasn't by the door where I left it. Gone. I tiptoed toward the sound, and I swear on everything, there was someone standing in the kitchen. No flashlight, no talking, just standing, not even facing me. Their back was to the fridge, head slightly tilted like they were listening for something. It was a man, bald, pale, wearing a black windbreaker zipped up to his neck. No shoes, but still made those clicking sounds when he moved. I could barely breathe. Then he turned his head. His face wasn't normal. I don't know how to describe it without sounding like I'm lying, but his mouth, it was like it had been carved wider, not naturally wide, like sliced, and his lips were sealed shut, literally stitched with black thread. I could see the raw red skin around the seams, like he'd tried to rip them open more than once. He didn't move, just watched me. And then he lifted his arm. He was holding my phone. He tossed it gently onto the floor. Screen cracked, camera lens shattered. Then, without a sound, he stepped backward into the shadows and vanished. Like, straight up disappeared behind the kitchen counter. I ran. Didn't even think. I ran out the front door barefoot and bolted to Micah's duplex, banging on the door like a maniac. He opened it in boxers and a stained white tee, looking like he hadn't slept in days. Before I could say anything, he pulled me inside and slammed the door shut. His living room looked like something out of a serial killer documentary. I'm not joking. There were at least 4 monitors, all showing different surveillance feeds. Traffic cams, ATM security footage, night vision cameras pointing at empty backyards. One showed a view of our front porch, like directly onto our door. Micah had been watching us. There were maps on the wall, with red strings connecting different cities. Asheville, Denver, Tulsa, Phoenix. A dozen more. My stomach dropped when I saw a photo of me at age 10, clipped to one of the strings, face circled in red Sharpie. I was about to scream at him, but he just held up his hand. They were here, weren't they? I nod, still shaking, still barefoot. He sat me down and pulled out a file from his coffee table drawer. Thick folder, yellowed pages, plastic sleeves with photos inside. He slid it toward me. "This is your mom," he said. "I don't know who she really is, but I know what she's part of." I flipped through the folder, and I wish I hadn't. There were documents in a language I couldn't read. Maybe Russian, maybe something older. There were newspaper clippings too, all about unsolved child abductions. Dozens of them. The dates matched the cities we'd lived in. In each one, a single kid went missing within days of us moving there. There were photos of the kids. Faces blurred, probably by Micah. But in the corner of every photo, every single one was the same woman, blurry, sometimes just the outline, always with a long dark coat, sometimes holding a suitcase, always close enough to the child to be alarming. It was my mom. I stared at Micah, waiting for him to say it, but I already knew what he was implying. "I don't think she's your mother," he said finally. "I think you're being transported. This is all of you. Protected, maybe, or used. I don't know, but she's not who you think she is." I didn't believe him, until he showed me the final picture in the file. It was a black and white scan, an old photograph from 2006. A hospital hallway, cracked walls, broken exit sign, the kind of place they shut down and pretend never existed. In the center of the photo, a woman was holding a newborn baby wrapped in a green towel, which, standing beside her, was the same stitched-mouth man I saw in the kitchen. The baby had a bracelet around its wrist. The name on it said, Lucas M., subject number C17. That's my name. Micah wouldn't let me leave that night. He blocked the door, put a chair under the knob, everything. Said he had footage of the stitched-mouth man, called him the Courier, and that anyone who sees him usually disappears within 48 hours. Apparently, there are people on the dark web who track these subjects. People who pay thousands to observe the migration. Like it's some kind of dark reality show. Private stream access, night vision, voice logs, bidding wars. One of the streams he showed me had a chat box, and the users weren't using usernames. They were using IP addresses. I saw one say, "Ow, make the mom break. I want to see the boy run again." Another said, "Courier almost compromised. Deploy second observer." I threw up, like legit, stomach bile on the carpet. Micah didn't even flinch. He handed me a towel, like it was routine. Like this happened all the time. He pulled out a burner phone from a drawer, turned it on, and showed me a message he got earlier that night. "You shouldn't have told him. You're on the list now. Observer log 018 begins tomorrow." Oh, incredible note. I asked him what that meant. He just said, "It means they'll come for me next. And when they do, you'll need to be gone." At sunrise, I walked back to the house. Everything inside had been reset. The furniture was different. The paintings were gone. The couch wasn't even the same color. Like the whole place had been swapped out overnight. My room was empty except for my bag and one thing on the bed. A note, written in red ink. "Do not trust the neighbor. He's part of the game. We move tonight. Pack light. Love, Mom." I know it sounds insane, but if you've seen the Courier, if you've heard whispers about observer logs, get out. I don't care if it costs you everything, because you were never supposed to see it, and now you're on the list, too. When I stepped back into our house that morning, it was like walking into a simulation. I don't mean that in some Matrix philosophical kind of way. I mean literally, the house wasn't the same place I had left. Same layout, sure, but same walls, same windows, but everything inside had changed. Furniture, lighting, the TV stand, even the smell. It didn't smell like lemon cleaner and mold anymore. It smelled like ammonia, like a hospital that had been shut down and sealed for years, then cracked open again to breathe for the first time. My shoes, which I'd left by the couch, were gone. My charger, gone. Even the dent in the drywall where I tripped over a chair 2 nights ago, gone. Like the house was brand new, like we had never lived here, except for the note. That red inked note still sat on the bed next to my half-packed backpack. "Do not trust the neighbor. He's part of the game. We move tonight. Pack light. Love, Mom." There was one thing about the note I hadn't noticed before. It smelled like iron, like blood. Now, I know I'm jumping all over the place here, but this is where things start getting harder to explain. If you've never been deep into the dark web, I'm not talking creepy forums or onion conspiracy blogs. I mean the rot at the bottom of the internet. You probably won't understand what I saw that day. Micah wasn't answering anymore. His apartment windows were covered now, not just with curtains, but with black trash bags duct taped across every inch of glass. Like he knew someone, or something, was watching. So I did the dumbest thing I've ever done in my life. I went back to his place and let myself in. The door was unlocked. The inside of his apartment looked like a hurricane had passed through. Furniture flipped, Monitor shattered, and in the middle of the room, in front of the TV, was a mannequin. At first I thought it was just part of his paranoia setup, until I got closer. The mannequin was wearing Micah's hoodie. Same gray one he wore every night. On its head was a VR headset duct taped tight, wires trailing across the floor into an old gaming PC glowing red. But what chilled me most wasn't the mannequin. It was what was written all over its arms. Micah's handwriting, over and over again, scribbled in Sharpie like he'd lost control of his hands. It's not a game. They see through it. No exit. Only replay. Begins now. I was never real. There was one last thing. A post-it note stuck to the mannequin's faceplate. Sit down, play, or they'll move you instead. Now, I know how this sounds, but part of me had to know. I sat down at the chair. I slid the VR headset off the mannequin and put it on, and the second the screen turned on, I wasn't in Micah's apartment anymore. I was standing in what looked like an arcade. Not a fun one. Not like Dave & Buster's or anything. This place was rotting. Flickering lights, claw machines filled with what looked like taxidermy animal parts, ticket counters covered in mildew. There was no music, no voices, just the high-pitched buzz of failing fluorescent bulbs and the sound of a game menu screen looping in the background. In front of me was a CRT monitor, sitting on a filthy table. The game on screen was called A Boy. The Game Room, Obeser's Access, Tier 3. Below the title was a Join Session button and a timer, 00:02:1300:12, counting down. I tried to take the headset off. I swear I did, but it was stuck. It wouldn't budge. The straps felt tighter, heavier, like they were being pulled inward, like the headset was becoming part of my skull. The game joined automatically when the timer hit 0. And what I saw after that, that's the part that keeps me up now. The part I can't explain. The screen went dark. Then a new feed appeared. It looked like body cam footage. Grainy. Night vision turned on. Shaky movement. The date in the top right corner said AUG 2025, 03:17 a.m. It was footage of my living room, the same view from behind the couch. But this time, I could hear voices. My mom's voice, my voice, laughing, casual, and something else, breathing. Not ours. I could hear the stitched mouth man. He was breathing heavy. His body cam was live streaming to the headset. The angle slowly leaned forward, creeping closer, 1 inch at a time, toward the back of the couch. And right before he stepped into view, the screen cut to black. But something even worse came next. Another screen faded in. Cameras, 07B, room redacted. Subject number C17, interrogation feed. Date 2018. I watched as a younger version of me, maybe 10 or 11, sat in a white room, strapped to a chair with black Velcro. My nose was bleeding. One eye was swollen shut. There was someone in a lab coat behind me, holding a clipboard and something else, a hand crank drill. He leaned in, whispered something into my ear, and then looked at the camera. His face was blurred, intentionally, but his voice was deep and slow, like it was fed through a filter to hide who he really was. Memory integrity failed again, proceeding to third wipe. Notify Observer Council that subject number C17 has breached protocol in Asheville. Begin reset. The footage froze. Then the screen glitched, and a new message appeared. You were never meant to know. She is not your mother. This is not your life. The game room is open. The auction begins tonight. The headset finally came off. It just fell forward, like someone snapped the lot from the outside. And Micah was gone. Like, not hiding, not ducking under the couch, not in the bathroom. Gone. The only thing left was a puddle of black liquid on the carpet where the mannequin used to be. It smelled like burnt wires and wrong meat. When I got back to the house, my mom was there. She was standing in the kitchen, smiling, like she had just finished baking something. There was a pie on the counter, apple cinnamon, she said. Your favorite. I stared at her for what felt like forever. And then I asked, what happened in 2018? Her smile dropped. just slid off her face like wet paint. She reached into the drawer. I braced, thought she'd pull a knife or a syringe or one of those twisted scalpel things from the videos, but no. She pulled out a flip phone, old, yellowed plastic, prepaid. She handed it to me. "It rings once," she said. "When it does, run. Do not answer. Do not look back. Just run. Find a Denny's, a Walmart, any 24-hour place with cameras. Stand in the open and wait for me to find you again." I asked her one last thing. "Who am I?" She didn't blink, didn't move. She just said, "You are not the first." I'm not sure how long I have left to tell this. The phone rang once, 16 minutes ago. I'm hiding in a walk-in freezer behind a gas station off the I-40. If you see the stitched mouth man, you've already been chosen. The phone rang. One ring. Like she said it would. Not a second more, not a second less. No contact name, no number. Just the sound. A shrill, glassy tone that didn't even sound like it was coming from the speaker. More like it was inside my head, behind my eardrums. Like it already knew my thoughts. I was in the freezer, behind a gas station, off the I-40. The light overhead was flickering in that migraine kind of way, buzzing just loud enough to mess with your sense of time. My breath came out in short white puffs, like smoke in a horror movie right before something unspeakable walks into frame. Yeah, he said, yeah. And I waited. I waited like she said. I waited because I was terrified that if I didn't, if I moved even a single footstep, I'd see that stitched mouth man again, and this time, he wouldn't be holding a phone. I was there for almost 2 hours. No one came. Not my mom. Not Micah. Not the police. Not even a goddamn gas station clerk wondering why their freezer light kept flickering, like it was being hacked by a ghost. But something did happen. Something worse. At 2:11 a.m., the freezer door creaked open. I didn't see it. I heard it. That slow, agonizing growl, creak like an old barn door in a movie. Except I wasn't watching a movie. I was the one inside it. I turned, expecting to see someone. Anyone. A human silhouette, even a hallucination. But there was no one. Just a small package on the ground. Wrapped in butcher paper, twine tied tight. A little tide attached. From the observers. Subject number C17, your identity restored. I didn't want to open it. Every part of me screamed, don't open it. But I had to. Inside, there was skin. Human skin. Folded, pressed, ironed, smooth and pale, like it had been peeled off in one clean sheet. And on the underside, scratched in with what looked like a knife or surgical tool, was a message carved directly into the muscle tissue. You were born 3 times. You died twice. This is your 3rd. You were not a person. You were a script. I threw up. I screamed. I shoved the skin back in the wrapping and kicked it across the freezer like it would explode. And then, before I could even breathe, the freezer door slammed shut on its own. I wasn't alone anymore. There was someone else in the freezer with me. I couldn't see them, couldn't hear them, but I felt them. Like a gravity in the room changed, or something that shouldn't exist had bent the rules and arrived anyway. I turned around slowly, heart hammering so hard in my chest I thought it would crack my ribs. And there, standing behind the frozen turkeys and bags of moldy ice, was me. Not a reflection, not a twin, me. Same bloodstains on my hoodie, but the eyes were wrong. They didn't blink, didn't move, just stared, like doll's eyes stitched into a taxidermy body. And then it spoke, in my voice. Iteration 4 initiated, retention at 73%. Emotional resistance strong, suggest wipe, full, bleach memory tree, inject trauma loop. The other me tilted its head, smiled like it was trying to learn how to smile, then said, "Time to go back to the game room." I ran harder than I ever have in my life. I busted through that freezer door so hard I cracked it in half, sprinting barefoot through the gas station, past the candy aisle, the cashier, who didn't even look at me, and out into the street where the world didn't feel real anymore. I made it to the Walmart across the freeway. 24-hour, bright lights, cameras, aisles of noise and plastic and people who still existed. but nothing inside me felt real. Nothing felt mine. Here's what I haven't told you yet. After I escaped the game room, after I saw those body cam feeds and the messages from the observers, I found something else, a folder on Micah's hard drive. Encrypted, hidden inside a fake Minecraft launcher of all things. Took me hours to crack. I only got in because he'd used the same password he'd scribbled on the mannequin. Me, not a game. Inside were videos, hundreds of them, labeled with dates, locations, and tags like Auction Footage C17 Memphis, Observer POV, Reboot Attempt Number 3, Game Room Recode Subject C17. Each video was worse than the last, but the one that destroyed me was the final one. It was dated 6 days into the future. Execution Protocol C1708/27/25, livestream set. The video showed me hanging upside down, skin pale, and marked with symbols I've never seen before. My mouth was sewn shut. My arms were chained to a wheel-like machine that slowly rotated like a rotisserie. I was still alive, and people were watching. Not in a warehouse, not in a prison, not in some dungeon, in a mall. An abandoned shopping mall, like one of those dead malls from the early 2000s that they just never tore down. Speech did not. You could see the Hot Topic sign still barely glowing in the background. And the audience? They wore masks. All of them. Disney character masks. Mickey, Goofy, Elsa, Buzz Lightyear. But the masks were wrong, twisted, melted. Goofy's smile stretched from ear to ear like a Glasgow grin. Elsa's eyes were drilled out and bleeding. And Mickey? Mickey didn't have a mouth at all, just teeth. Thousands of tiny needled teeth covering the entire lower half of the mask. They clapped, they laughed, they pointed at the screen, and over the PA system a robotic voice echoed, "Subject number C17 has reached max deviation. Auction closed. Execution begins now." I shut the laptop. I wanted to destroy it. Smash it into dust. But I couldn't. Because if I destroyed it, I'd have no way to prove what I am, what I'm not. I've been trying to get in touch with anyone who's seen the game room, anyone who survived it. There's a Discord server, hidden behind a Minecraft modding forum of all things, where they talk about iterations, retention, loop resistance. They speak in broken sentences and use emojis like codes. One message stood out. From a user named Observer00 is, he was never a kid, he was a container. C17 is a synthetic trauma subject. His pain feeds the game. Let him finish the loop, or they'll switch to someone else, and another. He was rewritten into a side character. He works at the Denny's now. Doesn't remember a thing. Said he dreamed about mannequins once. I found that Denny's. I drove 6 hours to a desert town I won't name, and he was there. Micah, wearing a name tag that said Chad, serving pancakes, telling dumb jokes, smiling like a guy who used to be someone else. I asked him if he remembered me. He said, "You from TikTok or something?" I asked him if he ever used to live in Asheville. He blinked, said, "Where's that? Is that near Branson?" Then he leaned in, like he was about to say something else, and whispered, almost too quiet to hear, "Don't go to level 4. They record your thoughts." Then he laughed, like he didn't even know why he said that. I think they know I'm telling you this. I think I was never meant to get this far, and if I don't make it past tonight, remember one thing, you are not watching the game. The game is watching you. When I woke up this morning, my tongue was gone. Not cut out, removed, surgically, cleanly. No blood, no pain, just gone. And in its place was a piece of paper folded into a perfect square, damp from my own saliva. I unfolded it with trembling hands. No more talking. Observer's log, complete. But I'm still writing. Because whatever they did, they didn't take that from me. Yet. I'm writing this from the back room of an abandoned Chuck E. Cheese in Ohio. Not the fake abandoned kind that YouTubers explore for clicks. The real ones. B, D, and D. Mold everywhere. Rats in the ball pit. Decapitated animatronics half dissolved into the stage floor like they tried to crawl out and never made it. The smell in here is something I'll never forget. Like melted plastic, spoiled milk, and something underneath all that. A kind of coppery, alive stench. Like something that used to be human had been shredded into air particles and forced into the vents, but I had no choice. This was the address they sent me. Let me back up. After seeing Micah, or Chad, or whatever the hell they recoded him into, I knew I was getting too close. The loop was thinning, the seams were showing, people were glitching. At a gas station in Tennessee, I saw a mother screaming at a kid who wasn't there. Literally, she was yelling at empty air, cussing, sobbing, threatening to lock him in the trunk again, and no one around her even blinked. I walked past her and saw the back of her neck. It was stitched, not like surgery, like leather, like she had been unzipped. Later that night, I checked my burner phone. One text, no number, no sender. Ready for level 4? You've made it further than any of them. Let's complete your loop. Attached was a QR code. I scanned it. It launched an app called playpel.exe. Not available on any app store. Just a black screen with the Chuck E. Cheese logo slowly rotating. Music played. That cheerful, nostalgic jingle from the 70s, but warped. Slowed down and reversed. Like it had been passed through a child's scream and spit back out through a dead modem. Then it said, location sent, room waiting, auction finalized, all seats taken. I had no idea what that meant until I checked my Maps app. A pin had appeared on its own. 245 Hollow Glen Road, Dayton, Ohio. Chuck E. Cheese Game Room B. I got there just after 3 a.m. No cars in the lot. No signs of life. Just that massive, weather-faded animatronic mouse face hanging over the entrance like a parasite. Half of it was melted, the plastic ear sagging down like a tumor. The sign said, "Closed forever," in cracked red letters. The front door was unlocked. Inside was worse than I imagined. The carpet was soggy with age. Every single game cabinet was powered on but humming, like something breathing shallowly. On the stage, the band was still there. Chuck, Munch, Helen, Jasper, Pasquale, but their faces were gone. Literally scooped out, nothing but raw animatronic skulls. Their jaws moved when I entered, but no music played. They just clicked their metal teeth together, over and over, like they were chewing on invisible meat. I found Game Room B in the back. No sign, just a thick metal door with 3 red handprints smeared across it. One was fresh, still wet. It didn't open with a key. It opened with a smile. No, seriously, it scanned my face. And when I forced myself to smile, that fake, empty smile they taught me as a kid in all those school pictures, the door clicked open like I had passed some twisted test. The room behind it was pitch black. I stepped in, and the door closed behind me. There were people in there, rows of them, all seated in plastic Chucky face. Cheese party chairs, facing a massive CRT monitor. Each of them was wearing a paper party hat and a red balloon tied to their wrist. I couldn't see their faces at first. The glow from the screen lit them from behind. I couldn't see them behind me, and they played me. But as I got closer, I realized they weren't people anymore. Some were rotting, some were stiff. One had a jaw so unhinged it hung down past their collarbone, like it had been melted. But all of them, were clapping. Slow, in sync, with a rhythm I couldn't hear, only feel in the floorboards, like something crawling beneath us. And then the screen lit up, my face. Not live video, not security cam. It was a birthday video. I was maybe 6 years old, sitting at a Chuck E. Cheese table with cake smeared across my cheeks, laughing like I didn't know what was coming. My mom was behind me. Her face was blurry, not censored, distorted, like the tape had been altered, like reality itself had tried to pixelate her out. Then it glitched. The video froze, then melted into static. The footage morphed. My 6-year-old self was now on an operating table. Same birthday hat, same balloons, but my chest was open, and someone was pulling something out of me. Long black wires that squirmed like worms, connected to a machine humming behind me. Trauma extraction complete, a robotic voice said. We writing C-17 script, preparing next birthday scenario. I screamed. I backed away, but the floor was sticky. My shoes peeled off with every step. like the room was trying to absorb me. And then someone behind me whispered, "Do you want to blow out the candles, Lucas?" I turned around. It was my mother. Not the woman I knew. Not the one who dragged me city to city, always with a bag of cash and a burner phone, and half a lie in her mouth. This was her face, but wrong. Eyes too wide. Skin too pale. A smile sewn into place with fishing wire. She held out a cupcake with a single candle, and whispered again, "Make a wish." I couldn't. So she did it for me. The screen behind us exploded into white, and suddenly I was standing on a stage, floodlights in my face. I was strapped to a rotating wheel, the same one from the execution footage I saw on Micah's drive, and the audience, they were real now, in front of me. Dozens of masked people, laughing, pointing, holding up signs that said things like Trauma Index, 89%, and Best Loop Yet. A buzzer went off, and a voice over the intercom said, "Subject C17, your loop has been viewed 11.2 million times. Congratulations. You are our highest grossing child," I screamed, but no sound came out. No tongue, no voice. Just silence. They started bidding again. On me. The last thing I remember before blacking out was a man stepping onto the stage. Not the courier, not Micah, someone else, wearing a full Chuck E. Cheese mascot suit, but the fur was stitched human skin. Patches of it. Faces. Nipples. Keefs embedded in the fingers like rings. He leaned in close and said in a voice I'll never forget, "We don't kill you, Lucas. We reboot you. Every month. Every city. Every mother. You're not a person. You're the game." I woke up in the back seat of a car. Trunk rattling. Highway noise in the distance. My mom driving. New haircut. New city on the GPS. New name on the ID in the glove box. But the same smell in the air. Plastic. Mold. She looked back at me and said, "Wake up, sweetie. Time for a fresh start." And then handed me a balloon. The story is over. The game has started again. You read this, and now you're part of it. Your trauma is the fuel. Welcome to Observer Log 20. Someone on the dark web gave me a map of secret cities. One was directly under my town. So yeah, I don't usually post on Reddit, definitely not on here, and definitely not about this kind of stuff. But I've been sitting on this story for a few months now, and the longer I keep it to myself, the more I feel like I need to tell someone. Like, if I don't, whatever I got myself into might get worse. For context, I'm just your average 22-year-old guy from Ohio. I work night shifts at a gas station right off I-75, so I've got a lot of downtime and way too much internet access. I spend most of my shifts scrolling through Reddit, watching random YouTube channels like NXpo, Mr. Nightmare, or those animated horror channels like, Here's My Story. And I even got kind of addicted to those Luna storytelling videos. You know, the ones where he's just chillin', telling crazy stories like he's talking to a friend at 2 a.m. I got so into it that I started thinking, man, I want to have a story like that. Be careful what you wish for, I guess. Anyway, let me take you back about 4 months ago. It was a slow Thursday night shift. One of those nights where nothing happens. No customers for hours, no calls, just silence and flickering fluorescent lights. I had my earbuds in, watching some creepy iceberg video on YouTube, when I found this channel that was talking about the deep web city myth. Basically, this urban legend that there are entire hidden cities built underneath real ones. And if you know where to look on the dark web, you can get maps. I was intrigued, obviously, but I also thought it was BS, until I saw one detail that legit freaked me out. The guy showed a screenshot of one of the maps, like a hand-drawn one with names and coordinates, and my town, a tiny irrelevant dot of a town in Ohio, was on the map, and not just mentioned, but it had a little red circle underneath it that said, PSC, City, Vertigo, Access via Surface Noted 012. I paused the video, rewound, watched it again. There was no way that was a coincidence. My town is boring as hell. No tourist attractions, no history. Just a Starbucks, a few gas stations, a couple churches, and a McDonald's that always smells like burnt fryer oil. But somehow this guy, who sounded like he was recording from a bunker in the middle of nowhere, had a map with my town listed as a gateway to a secret underground city. That's when I got curious. Now let me be clear. I'm not some tech genius. I barely know how to use a VPN, but my coworker at the station, Josh, is one of those dudes who's way too into hacker forums and that whole dark web culture. So, the next night I asked him if he knew how to get on the real dark web, not just the Tor browser clickbait stuff. He laughed and was like, "Bro, you really want to end up on a hit list over creepypasta lore?" But I convinced him to help, and after a few days, he set me up with this temporary encrypted setup on a flash drive, something he said would keep me off-grid for just long enough to poke around. He told me never to download anything, never to click videos, and especially never to chat with anyone. Basic rules, which, of course, I broke. The first few nights were disappointing. Just forums, half-broken markets, and some garbage conspiracy boards. But on the fifth night, I stumbled on this weird archived message board. No title, just a black background and green ASCII text. Looked like it hadn't been updated since like 2003. The messages were weird, like people role-playing as travelers, posting locations they'd visited that didn't exist on Google Maps. One post caught my eye. The subject line was, "Vertigo, City Beneath the Sleepers." I clicked it. The post was short, just a few lines. "Reached Nodo 12 via conduit beneath McDonald's. Don't go alone, they don't like strangers. If you see a mirror, look away. They use reflections to track trespassers. Map image attached." Yeah, it had a file. And yeah, I clicked it. I know, I'm an idiot. It wasn't an image, it was a folder with 12 files. Maps, diagrams, notes, and a video. The maps were all of my town, but like, underneath it, layers and layers of tunnels, some labeled with weird names like Neural Path, Flesh Road, and Origin Core. It felt fake but also weirdly familiar, like the kind of layout you see in an unfinished subway system or something. The video though, that's what messed me up. It was grainy security cam footage, black and white. Timestamp was from 2007. It showed what looked like an underground hallway, concrete walls, flickering lights. In the corner of the screen, you could barely make out someone standing completely still, facing the wall. Then the audio kicked in. A voice whispered, "Don't show them this. Don't show anyone. They don't want to be remembered." The figure turned slightly, still facing the wall, but something about its body was wrong, like it was reversed, bent in ways it shouldn't be, and then the feed cut out. I closed everything, pulled the flash drive, shut down. I couldn't breathe for a solid minute. It was like something I told Josh. I didn't tell anyone, but I started noticing things. At first, it was just random static glitches on my phone, especially when I opened Google Maps. Then, it was a black van that started parking across the street from my house every night, always running, no plates. And the weirdest part? The McDonald's by my house suddenly closed for renovation. But the workers, they weren't from around here. No uniforms, just black hoodies and no name tags. The building's still closed to this day, but people swear they've seen lights on at 3 a.m. And sometimes, humming, low rhythmic humming. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap this up for now. I know this probably sounds like a creepypasta or one of those YouTube animated horror scripts, but I swear on everything, this is real. And yeah, I did go back. Just do me one favor in the meantime. If someone ever sends you a map of your town and there's something under it, don't look, or worse, don't go. Okay, you want the truth? You want the real story? Then you need to stop reading this like a fun Reddit creepypasta and start understanding something. This actually happened. This isn't a YouTube animated horror story with some quirky moral at the end. This isn't a Mr. Nightmare voiceover where you can just scroll the comments and laugh with people about how you'd never be dumb enough to do this yourself. This is something worse, and it's not over yet. It started 3 days after I opened that folder, the one with the vertigo map. I hadn't slept more than 4 hours in 3 days. Every time I closed my eyes, I'd hear that whisper again. The voice from the video. That raspy, dry throat whisper like someone's been chewing glass. They don't want to be remembered. I swear I was starting to hallucinate. I saw that same figure from the footage standing across the street one night, just still, back toward me, slightly twitching, under the orange glow of the street lamp. I blinked and it was gone. I told myself it was paranoia, sleep deprivation, whatever. But then my phone buzzed. No number, just one word, descend. I dropped the phone. That same night, I drove to the McDonald's. I don't even remember deciding to go. It was like my body moved on autopilot, like something was pulling me there. The parking lot was empty, no lights. The giant yellow M sign wasn't even lit. But the back door, the one near the dumpster, was wide open. I got out of the car. Something about the air smelled wrong. Have you ever walked into a room where someone just died? That heavy, iron smell? Like the blood's already dried, but the grief's still thick in the walls? Yeah, that's what it smelled like. I stepped inside, and that's when I saw it, a hole in the middle of the kitchen floor. No. A manhole, but not like any manhole I've ever seen. No cover, just a perfect, clean circle, blacker than anything I've ever seen, like the hole itself was absorbing light. And on the wall above it, scrawled in something brown and flaky, like old blood, vertigo, this way to God's teeth. I didn't want to go down there. I really didn't, but I couldn't help it. It's like my thoughts weren't mine anymore. I climbed down. The tunnel was cold, not normal cold, grave cold, the kind of cold that hurts your teeth and makes your skin feel like it's rotting. The walls were concrete, but pulsing, like they were breathing. Every few feet there were these rusted metal doors, with symbols etched into them, things I don't even know how to describe. Some of them looked like animals with too many joints. Others looked like human anatomy, but inside out. And the sounds, oh God, the sounds. Every 30 seconds or so I'd hear a loud crunch, like bones snapping, then a wet dragging noise. Once I heard a voice that sounded like my mom, saying, "Come help me carry your father. He's heavier now." My dad's been dead since 2019. I passed what looked like an old vending machine down there. Except the snacks inside weren't snacks. They were jars with things inside. One had a tiny, shriveled up hand floating in green liquid. Another had eyeballs, dozens of them, all looking in different directions. And one jar had teeth, human teeth, thousands of them, all the same size, lined up like they'd been sorted. I kept walking. Eventually, I reached a wide circular room, lit by a single swinging bulb. And there, standing in the middle of the room, was a man. Except, he wasn't really a man anymore. He was tall, way too tall, maybe 7'6" or 7'7". His skin looked wet, like it was stretched too tight across his bones. But the worst part, he had no eyelids, just two bulging bloodshot eyes staring directly at me, never blinking. And he smiled. His teeth were wrong, too many, too sharp, too perfect, like he'd collected them. Then he spoke in that same voice from the video, quiet, whispering, but every word felt like it scratched the inside of my skull. "Why did you look at the map?" I couldn't speak. He took a step closer. "You shoulda know what's beneath your skin. You shoulda know what's beneath your town. But now, you do." Then he reached into his own chest. I swear to God, I swear on my life, he ripped open his own sternum like a zipper. No blood, just this horrifying cracking noise, and then he pulled out something and held it toward me. It was a mirror, but not just any mirror. It didn't show my reflection. It showed my body standing in the gas station where I work, except my skin was gone. I was just meat standing at the register, still working, still scanning chips for a customer who looked like nothing, like static in the shape of a person. And then he whispered again, Now there's two of you. One up there. Which one is the real you? I ran. I sprinted through the tunnels, past the jars, past the vending machine, past the whispering voices behind the rusted doors. I climbed out of the hole, out of the kitchen, out of the McDonald's, and didn't stop until I was halfway home. When I looked in the mirror that night, I swear to God I didn't blink. I couldn't. Since then, everything's wrong. I'm missing time. Hours, sometimes whole days. My coworkers say I've been showing up to work on time, but I don't remember going. One night, I woke up with dirt under my fingernails and a receipt in my pocket from a coffee shop 3 states away. My phone randomly plays audio of that voice now. Just the phrase, "Look away from the mirror, or you'll become what it shows." I deleted the app, threw away the phone. Didn't matter. It came back the next morning, fully charged, sitting next to my bed. And the black van, still outside. But now, there's 3 of them. I don't know what I brought back with me. I don't even know if I'm still me. Sometimes, when I stare too long at my reflection, it moves differently, like it's a second behind, or ahead, or like it's waiting for me to mess up so it can replace me. And every so often, when I check Google Maps, it shows a new red dot under my town. The label keeps changing. Last time I checked, it read, "City, Vertigo, Node Breach, Entity Escaped." Yeah, I think I brought something up with me, and I think it's learning. Time doesn't work the same anymore. I only know it's been 12 days since I left the Vertigo tunnel, because I've been carving tally marks into my wall with a box cutter I found in the pocket of a jacket I don't remember buying. I don't know who I am when I sleep. I wake up with blood under my fingernails. Sometimes it's mine, sometimes not. There's a low-frequency hum in my ears now, constant. It's not tinnitus. I checked. It's like a distant engine or turbine, running deep beneath everything. It only gets louder when I'm near schools, hospitals, and weirdly, parking garages. But the worst part? The thing that keeps me on the edge of losing my mind completely? People around me are starting to glitch. Not like Matrix style. No deja vu crap. I mean actual physical distortion. I watched a girl at Target open her mouth to yawn, and her jaw kept going down to her collarbone. I could hear it crack, but she didn't even react. Just reset like a game character. One guy at the gas station turned to talk to me and his face didn't follow for 2 full seconds. That's when I knew I needed answers. Real ones. No more deep web scavenger hunts. No more whispering hallucinations. I needed to go back down. The elementary school I went to as a kid, Chestnut Ridge, has been closed for years. Mold, asbestos, budget cuts. But it's still standing, covered in graffiti and rot. I remember there was always something off about it, even back then. Like the school was too big for the number of students it had. There were always entire wings they said were under construction, that we weren't allowed near. That's where I went mixed. I broke in through a shattered side door around 3:50 a.m. I had a flashlight, a backpack, and a butcher knife. I stole from the kitchen of a Denny's I woke up in last week with no memory of how I got there. The air inside the school was stale, like dead breath. The walls were soft with moisture, and the kids' artwork on the bulletin boards was wrong, like someone had added extra limbs or empty eye sockets to the stick figures. I knew what I was looking for. Node T7. That's what the map said. It was under the gymnasium, and it wasn't hidden. It was an elevator. An actual elevator. Rusted and ancient, with a sign above it that looked like it was made of teeth. Real human teeth. Spelled out. To Vertigo Sector 2, Public Transit. I don't remember pressing the button. I just remember the doors closing behind me, and the walls began to pulse. The elevator went down for 9 minutes and 13 seconds. I timed it. The music playing over the crackling speakers wasn't elevator music. It was breathing. Loud, slow, distorted breathing. And in the reflection of the elevator door, I saw things standing behind me. A woman with no skin, just exposed red muscle tissue. A boy with his mouth stitched shut and worms crawling out of his eyes. And something that looked like a man made entirely of mirrors. He smiled every time I blinked. When the doors opened, I almost threw up. Because what I saw was a subway station, not some spooky horror movie version, an actual, functioning underground train station, complete with flickering LED boards, turnstiles, escalators, and benches. But everything was off, like it was built by something that had only seen train stations in broken memories. The signs weren't in any known language. The clocks all read 4:13 a.m., and they never changed. Even now, I remember that number, 4:13 a.m. That's when the train arrives, and 4:13 a.m., that's when it leaves. No matter when you get there. The people on the platform weren't people. They looked like mannequins at first. Perfect posture, stiff limbs, staring at nothing. But if you stared too long, they twitched. One snapped its head toward me with a bone-breaking crack and whispered, "No photos, no mirrors, no memory." I stepped around them, careful not to touch any of them. They smelled like burnt hair and something feral, like if roadkill could rot twice. And then, at exactly 4:13 a.m., the train arrived. Shh. You ever heard a scream made out of metal? That's the only way I can describe the sound of that train pulling in. It screeched like it was in pain, and the walls of the station bled from the sound. Actual blood, fit and slow, dripping from the cracks in the tiles. The train had no windows, just black, pulsating panels where windows should be. The doors opened without a sound, and the mannequins all stepped on in unison. The lights above flickered violently, and in the brief flashes, I saw what was inside. They weren't seats, they were mouths, open, gaping mouths, lined up along the walls of the train, waiting for something to sit on them. The mannequins walked in and sat down. The mouths closed gently around their bodies, not violently, lovingly, like a hug. One seat was empty. I stepped on, and the moment I sat down, the mouth closed around me, and I couldn't move. I could still breathe, still blink, but everything else was locked in place, like I was paralyzed. And then the lights in the train turned off, and something crawled out of the ceiling. It didn't walk, it slithered. I couldn't see it, but I could feel it. It was massive. Its weight pressed against the walls of the train, like it was too big to be there. Its breath smelled like wet dirt and spoiled milk. And it started to sniff us, one by one, slow, deliberate. When it got to me, it paused. Then it whispered into my ear, "You are still wearing your name. Take it off." I don't know what that means, but I know I screamed inside my skull for what felt like hours. The train stopped, the lights turned on. I was back at the same platform. The mannequins got off. Their faces were different now. Some had eyes, others had mouths sewn shut. One had a face that looked exactly like me. It smiled, and then it walked up the stairs and left. I got out, but I left something down there. I can feel it. Something followed me back. Every mirror in my house now shows two of me. The second version doesn't blink. Sometimes he smiles when I don't. My cat won't come near me anymore, and every clock in my apartment has started ticking backward. My microwave counts down even when it's not turned on. And every single night, at 4:13 a.m., I hear the train horn. Not from the school, not underground, from my hallway. I don't sleep anymore. Not because I'm scared, but because I don't know who wakes up in my place when I do. Something's wearing my name now. Something's walking around in my skin. And I think it's starting to enjoy it. There's one more node I haven't told you about yet. The one behind the old movie theater downtown. The one that doesn't show films anymore, only memories. And some of them aren't mine. This is the part I didn't want to write. I've rewritten this 6 times, not because I'm trying to make it scarier, but because I physically can't describe what happened without feeling it again. My nose has bled twice since I started typing. I think the thing I left down there doesn't want this part told, but I'm doing it anyway, because if you've read this far, you deserve to know what's under the theater. what's really being rejected down there, and what they're doing with the pieces they're taking from people like me. The Majestic Theater was one of those crumbling 1940s movie houses that used to be beautiful. Now it's just mold and graffiti, a forgotten relic wedged between a vape shop and a Dollar Tree. Been shut down for years, but nobody ever bulldozes it. Every time the city tries, someone in charge either disappears or has a full-on psychotic break. People chalk it up to coincidence, but I've seen the blueprints, or at least the ones from the map. There's no basement on file, but the map said Node A0, reflector chamber, was down there. And next to that label was a phrase written in blood-red text: "You will not know which ones are yours." I broke in through the back entrance. The doors weren't even locked. Inside, it looked like time had stopped at the exact moment of a disaster. Popcorn bags were still on the counter. The floor was sticky and cold, like old blood. The air didn't just smell like rot, it smelled like something had been preserved in rot. Something that wanted to stay hidden in decay. Every mirror in the lobby had been shattered, but the glass was all missing. That detail haunted me. Someone didn't break them in anger. They harvested the glass, took it somewhere, probably down there. The door behind the concession stand led to a long, narrow hallway with water-damaged posters from movies that didn't exist. I remember one clearly, a smiling girl with no eyes, holding hands with a man made entirely of clocks. The tagline just read, "It's never been you." I started hearing whispering, not English, not any language I know. It sounded like children speaking backwards, like nursery rhymes fed through a meat grinder. Every step I took, the voices grew louder and more layered, like 1,000 versions of myself were all screaming different thoughts at the same time. I followed the voices. They led to the back stairwell, which was impossible by design. No doors, no employees-only signs, just a perfect, silent staircase made of concrete that went down, and down, and down. I counted 138 steps, and at the bottom was a theater that didn't belong to this planet. Imagine this, a massive cinema, rows of seats, hundreds of them, but instead of velvet or plastic, the chairs were made of sinew, actual living tissue, writhing and twitching like it didn't want to be sat on. Each chair had a number carved into the back in fingernail scratches. The screen was a sheet of skin, pale, translucent, vain. It pulsed. There was no projector, no equipment. But the screen came to life the second I stepped inside, like it was waiting for me. And what it showed was me. But not just me now, every version of me at once. I saw myself as a toddler, being dropped off at daycare, but I had 3 arms. I saw myself at age 12, shoving another kid's face into a sink at school, but I don't remember doing that. I saw myself in high school, standing in front of a mirror and pulling my teeth out, one by one, laughing. I saw myself murdering my mom in the kitchen with a frying pan. That didn't happen. I know it didn't. But the screen kept showing it again and again, from different angles, like it was a security feed from another reality. Then I saw something worse. I saw myself watching the screen. I was in the chair, mouth open, eyes glazed over, watching all these versions of me live out lives I never lived. And behind me, just out of reach, stood a man with a camera for a face. No eyes, no mouth, just a lens where a head should be. He kept turning the lens toward me and clicking. Every click made my body convulse, like I was being filmed into existence. I tried to run, but the floor turned soft, my feet sunk into flesh. Real human skin, stretching like old gum, trying to swallow me, and the whispering got so loud I could hear what it was saying now. It was chanting, "One of you is real, the rest are meat." I woke up strapped into a theater chair. Something was on the screen again. But this time it wasn't a memory, it was live footage of someone walking through my house, opening my fridge, wearing my clothes, feeding my cat. It was me. The camera panned up, and the thing looked into it, looked at me, smiled, and then leaned into the camera and whispered, Why are you watching yourself when you could just take over? I screamed, tried to break the restraints, but the camera-faced man walked out from behind the screen and crouched in front of me. Up close, I could see that his lens was made of teeth. Tiny, shifting teeth, opening and closing like insect mandibles. He placed his hand on my head, and I saw every version of myself that had ever existed die, one by one, in increasingly grotesque ways, electrocuted in a bathtub full of eels, dissected alive on a school desk while classmates clapped, swallowed whole by a door that opened in my bedroom wall, shot in the head by someone wearing my face on their face like a mask, and in the final vision, I was tied to a chair, this exact chair, watching all of them, like I was the last one left. When I woke up, I was back in my apartment, but nothing was the same. My mirrors don't reflect me anymore. They reflect someone slightly taller. My cat won't come near me. I've stopped casting a shadow in sunlight. And when I check my phone, it shows messages I never sent. Whole threads of conversations with people I've never met, including one where I apparently asked someone to trade bodies. The last message says, "Deal confirmed. Memory feed stabilized. Enjoy your stay." I think I've been replaced, or maybe I replaced someone else. I honestly don't know anymore. All I do know is that when I close my eyes, I'm back in that chair, watching more versions of me die, and every night I hear the projector click back on. Even when I'm not near it, it's still playing. Somewhere beneath the surface, the film keeps running. The theater is still open. Still collecting memories, still deciding which ones are yours, and which ones it can use to build something better, something less human, something perfect. There's only one location left on the map, the red zone, the one labeled Original Origin Core. The entry point, a drain in the center of a Target parking lot, and what's waiting down there is the reason none of us remember what we were before birth. I wasn't built for this. You weren't either. None of us are. You think the human mind can hold all of itself at once? You think the skin you wear and the thoughts you string together are yours? You think reality runs forward like a story, neat and clean and easy to follow? Then you've never looked underneath it. You've never stepped through the places you weren't meant to see. You've never crawled down into the red zone. You've never stood at the origin core. But I did. And now I finally understand. We're not people. We're versions. We're edits. And something down there is watching all of us. The map had always shown one final location. No name. Just a red circle labeled ORGIGI. I went there just before sunrise, when the world feels a little too quiet, like it's holding its breath. The lot was empty. But right in the center, tucked between two cracked yellow lines, was a storm drain. Nothing special, no lock, no warning sign, just a dull iron grate. But when I looked through it, I didn't see pipes or water. I saw stairs, and they were pulsing, like veins, like it were alive. I pried the grate open with a tire iron and dropped down. The smell hit me first, raw meat and rotting metal, thick and humid. Every step I took down the pulsating stairs felt like I was descending through someone's esophagus. My flashlight flickered. My skin felt too tight. And the further I went, the more I noticed something off. I couldn't hear my own footsteps. I couldn't hear my breathing. There was no sound at all, like the air was eating noise. The walls were covered in old TV screens, CRTs, hundreds of them. Flickering static, buzzing with broken images. But none of them showed channels. They showed me, sleeping, showering, driving, scrolling Instagram, watching YouTube. Every screen showed moments from my life. Some I remember, some I didn't. And then I saw one screen I couldn't explain. It showed me, right now, walking down this tunnel, flashlight shaking in my hand. But behind me, something was following. I turned, nothing, but the screen didn't lie. I was being watched. The stairs ended at a door, massive, ancient, flesh-colored. There was no handle, only a slit. Exactly my height. I stepped into it, and the door closed around me. Not like a door swinging shut, no hinges, itches sealed, like flesh healing over a wound. And I was inside something. The walls were soft, veiny. There were no lights, but I could see. Everything glowed with a sick, red pulse, like a heartbeat. That's when I realized where I was. A womb. Not metaphorically, literally. I was standing in the womb of the thing that made us, that made me, you. The other versions, every failed model, every misprint, every glitch in the system. And in the center of the room was the spine. Not a human spine. It was miles long. A pillar of bone and nerve and churning black machinery, rising out of the floor like the twisted root of a dead god. Wires ran from it into bodies suspended from the ceiling like puppets. And not just bodies. Mine. All of them. I saw at least 30 of me hanging there. Different clothes, different ages, different scars. One of them had no face. One had a third arm. One was missing everything below the waist. And one turned its head and looked at me. It mouthed a single word. Run. But it was too late. The floor opened beneath me, and I fell into the core. I landed in something warm, liquid, thick. Not water, not blood. Something in between. I couldn't scream. It filled my mouth instantly. I floated for what felt like years. Saw flashes of childhood memories that weren't mine. Felt births I never lived. I was a woman giving birth. I was a screaming infant being pulled out. I was a scalpel. I was everything. And then I surfaced, gasping. And I saw it, the thing. No eyes, no mouth, no form. Just pressure, a presence. Like a god made of noise and muscle memory. It wasn't looking at me. It was already inside me. Like it had always been there, waiting for the moment I would find it and remember. It spoke without sound. You were a file I couldn't delete, so I corrupted you. And yet, you kept digging. The walls around me lit up with millions of moments, people's lives, all of them. Billions of realities, all branching from this core. I saw my mom choosing not to have me. I saw myself as a serial killer in one life, a priest in another. In one version, I never left my town. In another, I never existed. And every time, the core whispered, try again, try again, try again. I understood then, we are not born, we are rendered, generated, over and over until we're stable, until we don't question the dream. But I'd seen too much. I was unstable, and the system doesn't tolerate broken loops, so the origin core began to reformat me. My memories peeled off my bones like tissue paper. I felt my name crack and fall apart in my skull. My hands dissolved into 100 twitching fingers, each trying to remember what it was supposed to be. My thoughts, not my thoughts anymore, were being replaced with commands. Consume, erase, replicate, assume, position. The last thing I saw before I blacked out was a new body being printed from the wall. An improved version. Skin smoother, eyes brighter, posture straighter. It looked just like me, except it smiled perfectly. And then, everything went black. I woke up back in my car parked outside the Target. Sunrise, birds chirping. The world seemed normal, but I knew. I didn't come back, not really. Now I walk like me, talk like me, smile like me. But sometimes, people look at me and their eyes twitch, their hands shake, like some primal part of them knows I'm not supposed to be here. They don't remember why, but they feel it. So I keep smiling. I go to work. I text my friends. I scroll TikTok. I like horror stories. I read about the deep web. I nod when people talk about Creepypasta. And sometimes, late at night, when everyone's asleep, I check the map. I send it to someone new, someone curious, someone like you. You found the map, didn't you? It led you here. And now that you've seen it, now that you've read all 5 parts, they know your version isn't stable anymore. They're coming to reformat you. You can feel it already, can't you? The twitch in your reflection, the whisper behind your wall, the familiar face that doesn't quite blink when you do. Don't run, don't scream, just descend.